So Cardi B made headline news because she said, fuck Joe Biden and Donald Trump. She ain't voting in 2024. And girl, that's fine. Whatever. I'm not going to sit up here and argue with her about how she chooses to throw away her vote or her opinion. However, I do want to address some of the sentiments that she expressed that I believe are rooted in a fundamental misunderstanding about the process that I believe are more broadly shared. And I think we have to talk about it if we want to move forward. This is not going to be a short video, so buckle up. Number one, the idea that Donald Trump was a dire threat is actually crazy because the threat that we warned you about, we've actually seen realized under the Biden-Harris administration because Donald Trump got 3 Supreme Court justices on the bench. Those 3 Supreme Court judges are the reason why Roe v. Wade was overturned, abortion rights, are the reason why affirmative action was overturned, are the reason why Biden's student debt relief plan was overturned, a reason why we had things in the 200 judges that Donald Trump got on the bench, reason why things like the $5 billion that they tried to give black farmers was overturned, and a number of things, okay? And so this is not a hypothetical. Donald Trump was a threat. Donald Trump's damage will be felt in this country for a generation. Number two, the whole notion that there are solutions out there and solutions out there, you are 100% correct about that. There are a lot of solutions out there. But you know what we have? We have 3 co-equal branches of the government. We have 2 chambers of Congress that are equal. We have the House of Representatives and we have the Senate. Right now, the House of Representatives is controlled by Republicans. Speaker Mike Johnson, who sent his goofy ass down to sit in a red tie behind Donald J. Trump in trial instead of being in the chambers of the House to do the business of the United States, that guy is in charge. And then we do not have 60 Democratic votes in the Senate. And so when you need to have legislation passed and you have the Republicans who are in the House that can't get a damn bill passed, and you have Senate Republicans who obstruct everything, then you kind of tend to see solutions wither on the vine. So that's a big reason why the solutions that you want to see implemented don't get implemented. And there's a reason why the solutions that were implemented through things like the American Rescue Plan, everybody got their stimmies, and all the aid that was getting has expired because we don't have the Democrats in there to extend that, and we didn't have the votes. So that's just a fact. Now, the last thing I'll cover is, first of all, I will concede. Foreign policy sucks ass in this country. It always has, okay? That's number one. Number two, we spend an exorbitant amount on military defense spending. I will concede that as well. But let's talk some specifics in terms of the numbers. The federal government spends $6.1 trillion a year. And then state and local governments spend $3.7, again, trillion dollars a year. So when you're talking about $10 billion or this $1 billion, keep in mind that overall, $10 trillion are being spent in this country. Now, this money doesn't fall out of the sky. We pay into the federal, state, and local governments. Now, in the case of the federal, state, and local governments, sometimes we ain't paying enough. I ain't trying to have my taxes go up. And I know that the richest amongst us are definitely not paying their fair share because they got all kind of tax accountants and offshore this and that and together and all kind of schemes. So they really need to be the last ones complaining. But let's just break down some of these numbers. Let's talk about it. Now, 2023, the fiscal budget for the federal government, $1.3 trillion in Social Security. I know people don't even think about that. That's just baked into the cake. $1.3 trillion. Now, this is mandatory spending for Social Security, $839 billion for Medicare, $616 billion for Medicaid, income security programs, $444 billion. That's things like the Earned Income Tax Credit, things like SNAP, TANF, housing assistance, all of those things. $444 billion. And then there's another category of $502 billion. Then we have our discretionary spending, which is $1.7 trillion. Of that, $805 billion is for defense spending. I would agree with anybody who says that's a lot. But it has always been a lot. It has always been more. And to be fair, the Congress has given more than even what the president has requested each year that President Biden has been in office. But We don't want to have that conversation. Then we have our non-defense budget, which is $917 billion. Then we have this thing called interest that we pay because we ain't putting in enough tax money for compared to what we're getting back. And so there's money that's associated with it, unless you want to pay higher taxes. I don't. $659 billion is what we spend on that. All right. Now, I said earlier, $3.7 trillion is spent at the state and local level. I would also point out that of that $6.1 trillion that the federal government spends, over $1 trillion goes to the states. All right. State and local governments spend $3.7 trillion. Okay. The states spend $1.8 trillion directly, and then our local cities, townships, counties, school districts, etc., spend $1.9 trillion. Okay. And so what are the things that we are spending money on at the state and local level? Public welfare, elementary and secondary education, health and hospitals, higher education, highways and roads, police, corrections, housing and community development, and the courts. So I am all for having a conversation about why we shouldn't be spending money over here, or why are they getting money over here when we need this over here. But I would just urge you, when you're having these conversations, to actually understand who are the decision makers of the conversations. Joe Biden does not set the New York City budget. He doesn't set the New York State government budget. He barely sets the United States budget because Congress is where appropriations have to be initiated. Congress has to approve the president's budget. Congress can have their own ideas about what the budget number should be, and there's going to be a deviation from what the president submits and what Congress approves. So when you want to have a conversation about what we need here, here, and here, talk to the right people. You might want to talk to your mayor. You might want to talk to your governor. You might want to talk to your county executive. You might want to talk to your congressional person. You might want to talk to your senator. And you might want to talk to your president. But if you were only looking at the president, when there's a whole last $3.7 trillion, mind you, I told you the math. $6.1 trillion at the federal, $3.7 trillion at the state and local levels. So there's a whole lot of money that we're talking about. And you talking about President Biden. I'm just saying, be mad at the right people, have the conversations with the right people. And then if you have different priorities, let's get specific on it. I know what my priorities would be. I think we should be spending more money to make housing affordable, to be spending more money on education. We should be spending more money on making healthcare affordable, really damn near free. Hello. We should be spending money on cutting poverty. We should be spending money on public safety. That's not just putting more cops in the streets. I can name very specific things we should be spending money on. What about you? And then where in this pie chart of money that we're already spending, of this $10 trillion that's being spent in this country, where in this pie chart do you want to cut? If you want to plus it up, where's the money coming from for that? I'm all for saying, all right, we're going to cut money from here or there. But let's just be specific. And then tell me how that money is going to go into this other bucket in the pie chart. Or are we going to just cut costs altogether? Because that's typically what the Republicans want to do. They want to sit up there and they want to cut taxes for the wealthy. And then they say, oh shit, we got a deficit. What do? Then let's cut off all this other shit. Let's cut off the income safety or public programs. Let's cut off education. Let's cut off Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. You guys have missed all the times they try to privatize those things. Yeah. So let's have these conversations. And if you don't vote, then you don't need to have a conversation, because your opinion literally does not matter. The only opinions that matter are the people that vote, the people that are engaged. If you're voting, great. That's a great step. If you're going to your town hall meetings, your city council meetings, your county government meetings, if you're engaged with your federal, state, local officials, then you get an A+, gold star for you, because you are going to be who helps set the priorities for what matters and how those things get implemented.